To all the boys I've loved before. Now I just know that's going to be taken out of context and some people will get a good snicker out of it. And I don't mean the chocolatey kind either.
I like me better when I'm with you.
Now the title of this movie is a bit of a mouthful, so here on in I'm going to be referring to it as TATBILB, which sounds a bit like the nickname Bilbo Baggins would get if he joined a heavy metal band and got covered in tattoos from his head to his hairy little hobbit toes. Now for a lot of people this movie would have flown under the radar, and that's because it wasn't a theatre release, it came out on Netflix. And while we're on the subject of Netflix, can we take a moment to appreciate how much freaking awesome content they have? They've got Stranger Things, Orange is the New Black, BoJack Horseman, the Marvel series, Master of None, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Love, Lovesick, Altered Carbon, and so many other amazing things I can't list off the top of my head right now. So thank you Netflix for making me a lethargic couch potato, but I wouldn't have it any other way. But if you're on Facebook and you happen to be following BuzzFeed or BuzzFeed Australia or any of the other BuzzFeed pages, then you're bound to have seen at least one of the million articles or quizzes they've put up about this movie. Now the biggest thing I could say about this movie is just how real it felt. And I don't mean it was like 100% realistic, because obviously you will be required to suspend your disbelief every now and then. But it was real in a few certain ways. First of all, the main character, Lara Jean, was very clearly flawed in my opinion. She wasn't perfect, and that's good because humans aren't. No one is, especially not me, and I'm sure all of you as well, even if you won't admit it. Now personally, I didn't like the way that Lara Jean treated Josh. I mean, the poor guy had just lost his girlfriend and his best friend in one fell swoop, and on top of that he had just gotten her letter as well. So he was feeling like this whole barrage of intense emotions, and she wouldn't even talk to him about it, so I felt kind of sorry for him, I have to say. But it's all good because in the end they made up and it was a nice moment, and all's well that ends well, right? And then there was that part where Lara Jean was being really dense towards Peter, and those are his words, not mine. And I'm really glad that he called her out on that because we all know that happens. I mean, it's another thing the movie got right. The third realistic thing about TATBILB was the falling out between Lara Jean and Jen, because it showed that even if person A does something which they deem to be inconsequential and insignificant with no malicious intent, it can really affect person B in unforeseen ways. And then person B can just bottle up that resentment and just let it eke out in small doses over time and then just let it fester. And that also happens in real life, so kudos to TATBILB. Now one minor point of this movie that I found to be unrealistic was the fact that everyone called Lara Jean, especially her family. I mean, doesn't she have a nickname by now? Just call her LJ already. Now I know it might sound like I'm bashing on LJ, but I'm really glad they did all of that because it just made her a more compelling, human, relatable and realistic character with something of a redemption arc, which is always good. Now the last thing this movie gets right is arguably the most important thing for a rom-com to get right. And that is the chemistry between the two lead characters. And this movie had it in spades. It all felt very natural and organic and real and cute. Yeah, that's probably the best way to say it. And that's in no small part due to the acting of Noah and Lana, the two lead actors. And actually, maybe they weren't acting, I wouldn't be surprised if people were shipping them in real life. So is TATBILB now the quintessential high school rom-com? Maybe for the current generation, and it certainly is up there. But the crown for me still goes to 10 Things I Hate About You, and that's for a variety of reasons. Firstly, it has Larissa Oleynik, who once played Alex Mack in one of the coolest shows from our childhood. Then it also had Julia Stiles, who's an amazing Golden Globe nominated actress. And of course, the late, great, posthumously Oscar-winning Heath Ledger. And you would have never imagined he'd go on to play the Joker after watching this. And that's the mark of a good actor right there. And last but not least, this is based on the works of Shakespeare, The Taming of the Shrew, and he's one of the greatest playwrights in history, for a reason. However, it has been adapted to be more modern and consequently less sexist, which is always a good thing. Now if you're a youngin' and that movie was before your time, don't worry, you can pick up the DVD at your local Blockbuster. Okay, I've digressed long enough. My rating for TATBILB is 4 out of 5 pies. And I know I only gave Crazy Rich Asians 3.5 and that was a much bigger blockbuster movie, but I still like this one better, so sue me. I'd like to wrap this video up with a public service announcement. For all the men out there who enjoy watching rom-coms but who are too afraid to admit it for the fear of being thought of being less of a man. Brother, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Having additional interests only adds to who you are, it doesn't take anything away. Liking rom-coms doesn't mean that you don't even lift, bro, or that you don't play sports or video games or like martial arts or any of 1,000 other traditionally masculine things. It also doesn't mean that you can't knock someone on their ass if you have to. Being a man means knowing who you are and being unapologetic about it. It means knowing what you want and going after it without letting anything stand in your way. Now the caveat to everything I just said is that it can apply to women just as much as it applies to men. And that's exactly my point. Male or female, don't let anyone tell you what you can or can't do. Unless they're telling you that you can't break the laws of physics, or any other laws for that matter. I mean, if someone has to tell you that you can't fly, murder or steal, then you both have bigger problems to worry about. Okay, I know this wasn't a typical movie review, even by my standards, and it went longer than expected. I'm sorry about that, but there were certain issues I had to address. If you're still watching, thanks and kudos for making it this far. If you like this movie review, I've got a few other ones up, and there'll be plenty more coming in the future. I also recently put up a video about my trip to Japan, and there'll be other travel videos coming too. On top of that, I'll also in the future be having videos about fitness, music, cooking, gaming, tech, and possibly other things I haven't even thought of yet. So if any of those appeal to you, it would be really cool if you could like, follow and subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook pages, and that way I can keep more content coming to you. Thanks so much in advance and keep being awesome.
I like me better when